Welcome to Sewing Out Loud, the official podcast of Zede Sewing Studio. Here are your hosts, Zede and Mallory.
Sewing Out Loud. Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Mallory Donahue.
And I'm Zede Donahue.
And if you're liking what you're hearing, please go to iTunes and leave us a review. And hopefully by this time I got a little video on how to do that because it's kind of confusing.
It is hard.
I had to Google how to do it.
I mean, I know I'm old and not of the...
I'm 26.
Right. And you should
like
be able
30,
to do it.
And we had to Google it.
So just because you're in your, sextagenarian decade isn't the reason you can't do it.
And if you couldn't figure out how to do it before when we asked you how, it's okay. And we'll show you. So anyway...
I have just something I want to talk about a little bit. I don't know what your subject is going to be for today yet. But so Mallory and I live on the same property. And she has a house and I have a house. And it's connected by basically a bridge of rooms. And one is a gym and one is our studio. It used to be just our sewing studio. And now it's also our recording podcast studio. So... my husband, Mallory's dad, comes up the other day and he goes, "So what is this? Did you take the..." Because he's always checking out the equipment or whatever. Sometimes he'll come in here. There are some bizarre things in here. Like I like to work from IV poles, IV poles, medical hospital equipment. I have IV poles, and sometimes there's like beads hanging from them, or you never know. So, and there's hooks in the ceiling that have chains on them and stuff. I mean, it's a bizarre place to be. Maybe someday, if we ever clean it up, we could take some pictures.
You can take pictures of dirty things.
Well, yeah, but I don't think they could understand it the way it looks right now. Right? There's like a dog bed.
BS. It looks like their house. Everybody's house looks like this.
It's like when I used to do a lot of costuming before we built the studio. Right. And people would come to the house and there'd be sequins all over the floor and all this stuff. And I would say, "Oh, I'm sorry. We don't really live like this. But I'm doing all these costumes or whatever." And then I realized I said that to everyone every time they came to our house. So we were living like that.
We live like
but
that.
Anyway, what I was going to say is, anyway, he came up here and he goes, "What is this? Something off the washing machine or something?" Blah, blah. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Because I thought maybe Mallory took something off of my washing machine. I didn't know.
Or I just put something from my washing machine
That's
up here.
right. Or she was trying to take something from my washing machine for her washing machine. I didn't know. So there's 3 washing machines in this house, so it could be off of any washing machine. That's right. So anyway, it was the podcast microphones. And when you look at them, they kind of do look like they could be like a gear
they
out
look
of
like a filter or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Or they even look like they could be the agitator or something in the washing machine. But anyway, so we podcast from a dirty studio into washing machine parts.
That's right. And
we're happy to say so.
I think it segues real. That's a good intro, Mom. You're being coy. Because today we're talking about, do you tell people that you sew? How do they react? What do they think of you when you tell them that you sew? And maybe this, Mom, you could probably tell like 5 different stories about this.
So what is your sewing reputation?
Your sewing rep. What are you sewing creds?
I wonder sometimes how I am seen by people.
Yeah. Do you really want to know?
No, I don't. I want to make something up in my head and think that's real.
But when you first started sewing for people.
Oh, boy, though. I don't even know when that was.
Yeah.
Like, probably somewhere in my 20-ishes.
Well, what are the funniest reactions you've gotten? Or the funniest reactions, requests, something when you've told people that you know how to sew?
Well, you mean people asking me to do something? Yeah. Okay.
It's a podcast. Talk about something. I don't know. And this is your idea.
What have I been asked to sew? Well, I mean, your dad always asked me to do things like boat covers and all that. So he thinks I can take anything and sew it, and I can. But so I've sewn boat covers. I've actually, sewn out the inside of his truck and made it into like an Eddie Bauer decked out. Showplace. But I guess my question is, I have had people say to me, "Oh, I sew too."
Yeah.
And then when it gets down to it, it's not the same
It's not
either.
the same thing.
Right. It's like I don't know. I think the concept of people sewing and what people can sew that it's very diverse and it's on a spectrum.
Right.
And I think that the public needs to understand this. That when this happened to me a lot when I was costuming, especially when you're volunteering. That's the worst thing to do because you get other volunteers and they come in and they say, "Oh, I can sew. I can help you."
Yay.
And so you give them a project and then you get it back and it's not particularly right.
Right.
And so then you have to unsew and redo and all of that. So I don't know how to describe your level of expertise to someone when you do. There's a lot of people that sew that have never sewn a garment, that maybe they just quilt or they make bags or what do they do?
Sure.
Sew wall hangings, and they've never fitted anything to a body.
Well,
And fitting's a different skill than sewing.
I mean, there are definitely different techniques that I have not done,
or wish not to do.
Yes, very true. And
Right.
actually, one time this was a good learning experience. When I say I sew, I sometimes I will get people who are like, "Oh,
Right.
I sew too," and I don't know. They'll show me something they did, and I had to show off a quilting feature of a sewing machine one time, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I did like kind of a Bargello thing. I
Right.
strip pieced and I cut and I pieced and I cut and I pieced and I cut. And I realized, quilting is not super duper duper simple all the time. I was like, oh, my little edges aren't matching up. I don't know, maybe I should have starched it. I didn't want to starch it. I didn't blah 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 blah, all this stuff. And I actually realized that the nicer the machine you have, the more quickly you'll look like a professional.
Oh no, the better your machine.
That's right.
The only person that should have a really awful machine is one
Is
that
a really
really knows
good
how to
sew-
sew.
yeah,
Right,
really good
right,
sewer.
absolutely.
A really
A good
sewer.
machine can do a lot for you.
Yeah.
It can do a whole lot for you. I think what I think is also funny is sometimes people think maybe because I sew I can't do anything else.
Oh.
Or they don't know what else I do, or they think that that's my one, that's all I do, all I know. And they don't understand I can, build a house or save a life or whatever.
I've had people do that before, or I mean, with
Right.
any kind of hobby too.
Or somebody goes, "Oh, you have a sewing store." Like it takes no skill to have a sewing store,
Yeah.
no knowledge.
Yeah.
Takes nothing because it's just a sewing store. It's just a little hobby. Right.
Or they'll say, well, yeah, I bet you could just make that right there, and it's like, well, that isn't, just sewing,
Right.
or like, if you sew, can you refinish a chair?
Yes,
And
I can.
Mom
but
can, but like, I don't think people also they realize that like with fabric and refinishing a chair, that's not just sewing.
No, in fact,
either.
it's no. I mean, I have covered chairs and not sewn at all.
Not sewing a stitch,
Right.
right? And
It
people
might have to do with fabric and knowing what fabric does, but
Yeah.
it's not sewing.
people don't always realize that.
I think the other thing is that you don't always want to let people know what you can do because you'll have to do it, or you can't get out of it, or you get volunteered by your children to do it. Something like
Or,
that.
They're like, can you take up a pair of pants? And you're like, yeah,
Sure
I
you
can do
can.
that. And then all of a sudden somebody just drops off a bunch of pairs of pants for you.
Well,
To
how about
take
the
up-
lady that wanted her hem?
Yeah, and they don't realize what it takes to do that. And then I'm like,
Right.
no, Derek, your friend just can't give me the pants. I have to see your friend in the pants. And I don't really want to see him in the pants. And now I have to see them in the pants, or
And
whatever.
we did have a lady that wanted to drop off some skirts one time when we were doing alterations, and she said she just wanted them hemmed like 18 inches from the floor.
Yep.
So everybody just think about that.
Yep. She just wanted
Just
it
18 inches from
be
the floor and it
hemmed
would be
18
fine.
inches from the floor.
That's right.
Without
Without her trying
putting
them
it
on. She
Yep,
wasn't going to be
she
there.
wasn't gonna
Just
put it on.
18 inches from the floor.
Yep.
That didn't make it arbitrary at all. No, it did
Man,
not.
yeah. So I don't always tell people.
Just be
that I
careful of your
sew.
sewing reputation.
And also, having a sewing store in town, it is beneficial to us for people to know who we are because,
Right.
that's the store, right? But sometimes I just don't want to tell people. People be like, "Oh, your poncho is so pretty." Whenever I wear that purple poncho,
Oh, yeah, right.
I always get compliments on it. I'm very proud of that garment. I love it. I taught, classes out of that magic pattern book and everything. But it's like every time I say something like, "Oh, well, I made it," they're like, "Well, you should make a bunch of those and sell them."
I know.
And I'm like, "Oh,
they don't know what went into it.
No, I shouldn't.
Well, it's like when people get an embroidery machine, and I tell them, when someone asks you to do embroidery for, I'm just putting this out there, guys. But when you go to work and you say, "Oh, I got an embroidery machine, I loved it, and I made some towels, I embroidered some towels," and they say, "Oh, will you do this for me? My cousin's graduating from high school." You need to say, "I'm telling you, this is not a mistake." You say, "I'd be happy to do that, but I will have to charge you for at least the thread. It's very expensive."
Or wherever you bought your sewing machine, they should have the card of someone who does embroidery, and they should have given you some of those when you got your embroidery machine to carry around and be like, "Oh, no, I'm too busy doing my own stuff, but this person can help you."
We have had people get in the situation where they didn't charge that person they worked with because they considered them a friend or whatever, and then the friend brought in 6 beach towels or whatever, 12 beach towels, the next week, and said, "Oh, could you just put our last name on all of these for our family reunion?" And it'll be, it's going to be in 8 days. And, it put this poor woman on the spot. She paid a lot of money for her machine. She came to all the classes. She invested her time. And they somehow think the machine does all the work.
Well, she probably also bought that machine to have fun, not to embroider somebody else's freaking towels.
So I'm just saying, be careful.
But there are some people who like to brag about how they can
That's true, too. So I'm just saying, be careful.
My mother-in-law told me about how she ended up going to somebody's house, and they were like, "You have to come see all my sewing machines." And so she is really not interested in this type of thing.
Right.
And she was telling me the story and acted like kind of annoyed and stuff. And she's like, "And she showed me this machine and this machine. She just really wanted us all to know about these machines, da-da-da." And then I asked her what the lady's name was. And it was one of our customers. She's the one who bangs on the door before the shop opens to show us
our stuff.
Show us, her stuff. Yeah, She's a joy. Anyway.
Well, I guess the other thing is, be careful what you let your family know that you can do too.
There you go.
I've had to make banners for marching bands in the middle of the night, and get them cranked out. That turned out perfect. My son-in-law stood there and helped me the whole time. We had it great, but you will have to produce if you say you can. My husband, we talk about boat covers, camper covers, all this sort of outdoors stuff. And he one time had me repairing a boat cover, and I had put my machine in the middle of the living room floor because the boat cover, of course, is bigger than the boat, right?
Yeah,
And I put the machine on the floor, and I was actually, sewing like with my knee on the foot pedal, and sitting there, with my legs crossed and sewing. And my friend came over with her husband, and he said, "Oh, you have that same machine, can you?" And she's immediately, smart girl, popped up and said, "Yes, but mine won't do that." So she was obviously smarter than me when it came to that kind of stuff.
The other thing about sewing too, though, is it can work to your advantage. This is how I got Christmas presents this year. So the sisters decided, I got 2 sisters, like, let's just not do sisters presents this year, And I was like, okay. And we were going to get, things for mom and things for the children and da-da-da-da-da. And, Lindsay wanted to get Zelda toys and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But then, Hillary's like, well, I need a keychain like yours for my keys. Like, Josh and I keep forgetting each other's keys.
Mixing each other's keys up.
And I was like, oh, so we're like not doing Christmas presents, but
you can make
I get to make you a keychain, right? And so I embroidered these webbing keychains, and I thought, I'm just going to do these for everybody. And I'm going to be, I had such a fun time doing them, actually.
Right.
It was great inspiration. And then they felt bad and they got me Christmas presents. So.
Well, I think the thing about a sewing reputation is that a lot of times there's just a misplaced value on it. Either, people think it's really valuable when they need you. It doesn't mean they want to pay you or be considerate of your time.
Just being considerate.
Or they look at you and they go, "Oh, you sew? Well, I can buy that."
Yeah.
No, you can't, sweetheart. You can't afford what I can sew. I just want them to know. all of you had silk wedding dresses that there's no way. In fact, I would have not. Those dresses that I made for you.
Never would have made them for anyone else.
No.
Yeah.
Or if I had, they would have been $10,000-$12,000.
Yes. Yes.
So if they would have paid me that much, I would have made them for them.
Right. I have kind of a funny thing. I have a couple people who I've made handmade gifts for, and I've just gotten the most mixed responses.
Right.
Before.
You have to be careful.
And like, I made this one thing, and I wanted one, and so I just thought, like, I'm also gonna make this,
right,
for this
for yourself?
person. And
oh yeah.
man, boy, did I get the blankest look. It was a knitted cowl, and I made you one too.
I just
and
snorted.
and man, it was just like, huh. And then I'm just gonna take another shot at it a few years later, and I made something. I made the Serger Infinity scarves, and it was just a hit. So you're taking a little
you
risk
never know.
too. Your confidence, is important.
Right. You have to be
you
confident in what you do. You have to like
know.
what you do because you might not get the reaction you want.
Right. But then also I have had where I was like, I'm not making anybody anything, and they see something I'm wearing, and they're like, well, wait, can I have that? And I'm like,
Well, the thing that my one of my stock answers is people will see me in something, and they will say, oh, can you make me one of those? And I say, well, it won't look like this because I never make the same thing twice. And I don't like, I think it's one reason I can't really be a quilter because I can't make the same block twice. I don't want to.
Yeah,
if I make a quilt, I make, what kind of quilt I make.
Right.
I make a crazy quilt.
I've been looking, at like some of the more modern quilts that sort of appeal to my, aesthetic,
right.
Kind of sensibilities. And still, whenever I think about, I remember looking in that magazine once, and it showed a little triangle, and it said, cut 92. And I was like,
and that was it. It drove you nuts.
I was like,
right,
no,
right.
I'm not cutting 92.
Right. And there are people who feed off of that.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely love that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure there are
and
things,
more power to you because I'm not cutting the 92.
Well, I've had people look at the jacket and been like, oh, well, that's really pretty, but geez, I do not want to make one of those, you know? And
right.
So then you got to make what you like to
So
make.
it has to be, so your whole sewing reputation is pretty much whatever people want it to be, I guess. You have to be solid in how you feel about yourself.
Yeah,
and when I sew, I feel great. I love it when I come up with something. I like it when I discover a new technique. Oh my gosh, all I did was like beef up the dog beds the other day, and I was like so pleased with myself. And I mean, that's pretty rudimentary.
Yeah.
But the dogs liked it.
Yeah.
You know,
that sense of accomplishment. But then I think it can kind of hurt sometimes when people want to commoditize. Is that a word? Commoditize. They'll be like, oh, so you could save money doing this, or you could do this, and
sewing is not about saving money, everybody. Not anymore.
They kind of like demean it sometimes.
Kind of like it's housework. Like, I mean, that's what it used to be. A sewing
Mhm.
machine used to be an appliance.
Right.
It's not anymore. It is an instrument of art, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Or I'll have people say, "Oh, well, I thought that meant you just made all your own clothes."
Right.
And I'm like, well,
maybe
actually,
some of my clothes,
kind of a goal for me in a way, but like, no, like that's not the only thing that I do. And I think that's when it gets hurtful is when people start trying to put some kind of
which, if you think about it, in any kind of situation, if you assume what someone else does, if you take it for what the picture is in your mind, you can be insulting. You need to ask them.
Yeah.
You need to investigate how they feel about what they do or whatever it is. You don't need to put your preconceptions on them right away.
Well, or be condescending or something,
right.
In any
way.
Is
that what you do?
Yeah.
Oh, you sew.
Well, that's nice, Well, has anything bad ever happened to you?
Because you
sew?
Yeah,
because you sewed. You told someone
somebody
you could sew?
think you were like beneath them because you sewed, or did somebody think you were like amazing because you sewed?
And tell us what one of the weirdest things you've ever been asked to sew is. Tell us in the comments at sewingoutloud.com. Thanks for listening.
So long and so happy.
Thanks for listening to Sewing Out Loud. For even more expert sewing advice, visit sewhere.com.